Hello everyone, welcome back to Pris Corner with me Pris. I hope you're okay wherever you are. Today on What's Real or Not episodes, I am discussing another new Japanese comic / manga series titled Happy Ice Cream. This series was created by Mika Kawamura, which only contained 3 volumes, so this is also a short series as well. If you want to know more about this series, I will leave the details in the link in the description box below. And if you want to support me further, I will leave the link in the description box below as well. So, I already concluded that this series was based by 70% fantasy, 5% gray area, and 25% real. As per usual, I will start from the fantasy part, then move on to the gray area, and lastly on the real part. So, let's begin. Objectively, this series was really good at its time, but for me, personally, the series was pretty decent because the series lacked realism, so it's really hard to compare the series to real life, especially because we're talking it in the What's Real or Not segment, That's why the series score really high on fantasy and quite low on the real part. But nonetheless, the series was this starter's manga series that you can read if you want to know about anime and mangas that's catered to the female audience. And now, let's get to the real thing. There's a high percentage on the fantasy part because I think the major plot points in this series is based by fantasy or like dreams come true. Also in turn means it is like realism and it is really hard to compare it to the real life. Like the curse and then how the main guys move into the same apartment building or complex that Sakurako live, our female protagonist, and everything about the descendant of Hikaru Genji, and Sakurako is the descendant of the woman that Hikaru Genji loved, which I'm 100% sure that it won't happen in real life because like I said, because I never experienced something like that, so that's why I put it in the fantasy part. So the series ended with a happy ending, which as expected, even though I feel the ending kind of forced a bit because we never clearly know about Mikado's feeling, in my opinion, and towards the end of the series, it felt like his feeling kind of forged, or he suddenly has a change of heart, because I think he is caring towards Sakurako but not in the way that Sakurako wished for, like an affection but it's not love, and then towards the end of the series, seeming like he finally realized that he loves Sakurako, but his expression is questionable, so I think his feeling is kind of forged because, well, it is toward the end of the series, and because this is only a 3-volume series, well, makes sense in my opinion. And also, like I said in the other shoujo mangas or female comics that I have discussed before, everything is ended well, nice and neatly with the other characters as well, which I don't think is gonna happen in the real life, If that thing is a reality, there will be no war or fight and violence. At least the crime rate is not gonna be really high. But well, compared to the reality, it is only a fantasy or a utopia that many people dream of. Even though it is nice to read, to distract yourself from reality a bit, or should I say, escape from reality, even though just for a bit. So that makes sense and acceptable in my opinion. That's all for the fantasy part. Let's move on to the gray area, shall we? So for the gray area, I will talk about the girls that chase after Mikado, Kotaro, and Tsukasa, our main guys. I mean, those girls view our main guys as their idol, which I find it weird that they didn't bully Sakurako, I mean, Mikado fans did it once, but after that they disappeared, and never appeared again. Which I think it could happen, but it could not be happen. Most of the time, no, I guess. It won't happen like that. And also the other girls that are after Kotaro and Tsukasa as well didn't bully Sakurako or anything like that. Even though Sakurako has been hanging out with our main guys quite a lot of time, but even after those girls see one of the main guys with Sakurako, they just kind of get angry with our main guys and just disappeared. Usually in reality things doesn't happen like that, and most of the time the girls always gonna be bully our female protagonist or Sakurako, rather than the main guys, which I don't know why. Maybe because for the sake of plot convenience, like I said, because this is a short series. Even though I think it could happen, but it's pretty rare. That's why I put it in the gray area. And secondly, about Sakurako's best friend that I mentioned before in the preview episodes, where she don't hold grudges against Sakurako even though she knew that Kotaro likes Sakurako, And after she had been rejected by Kotaro, she can still be friends with Sakurako and try to speak normally with Kotaro as well. Like I said in the first point of this gray area, it could happen, it could not be happen, but mostly didn't happen. And if you meet friend like that, keep it, they're a really good friend. But I doubt that you're gonna find it because it's really rare, but really admirable as well. That's why I especially mentioned her as well, because most of the time the main protagonist's best friend doesn't really stand up much, They just help the plot to move on, but didn't have any significance in the story as well, or at least to the main cast characters. But this one does, so I really appreciate that and like that as well. And that's all for the gray area. Let's move on to the real part. Lastly, on the real part, I think it's the backstory of our main guys, Mikado, Kotaro, and Tsukasa painful experience, which I think could happen to anyone, and maybe it's happened more often than what I think or what I know. Like when Mikado fall in love with his stepmother, or maybe to be accurately say, he falls in love with someone that he shouldn't fall in love with. And then Kotaro that falls in love with someone, but that special someone maybe not his soulmate, so she kinda went to the heaven first and left Kotaro all alone. And also for Tsukasa's story, where he is the illegitimate child, even though he really talented, but people despise him because of his origin. But nonetheless, I think our main guys finally get through those obstacles and learning to move on, also accepting the reality as it is, and gladfully they didn't have any bitter resentment about it. Secondly, I think it's about the dynamics and interaction between our main guys with the supporting cast and also with Sakurako herself that I think are really genuine and real, like when they are joking around and just having fun, with exception when they are flirting, that's just too over the top. But well, I can understand because this is a 2000 series, so the story plot is still kind of like that, still full of cheesy line, I would say. But maybe it's a reflection of what people used to say or used to flirt around those times. So that's why I still include it in the real part. And overall, that's for the real part. Like I said, this is a pretty decent series for me, or good enough, because this series still teach you a good moral value lessons. Do not play with someone else's heart and don't treat all people the same, because everyone is unique and different from one another, Also learn to move on as well and not cling to your past, because it will hold you back from moving forward with your life. So I really recommend for you to read it, whether it's for nostalgic or if you're interested in shoujo mangas, And especially for those of you who are interested in reverse harem, this is a pretty good start because still PG-13. I think that's all for What's Real or Not episodes today. Again, I'm sorry if there is wrong grammar or mispronunciation along the way, but I hope you bear with it and still can enjoy the episodes. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow my Instagram account if you want to keep up to date with my new content. And don't forget to stay tuned on my KoFi Page or any other podcast platform that you listen in. And hope to see you soon. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.